On a quiet evening, on the empty streets of St. Petersburg, a man lost in thought realizes he is living in loneliness when he comes across a crying stranger. The book, White Nights. The author, Fyodor Dostoevsky. And you're listening to Lit Society. Let's get lit.
Let's get lit! Here we go, a deep dive into White Nights by Fyodor Dostoevsky. Part 1, Talking to Houses. Alexis, where you are, I don't want to dox you, but do you ever go on evening walks alone thinking about things?
No, not really.
Good, because if you was going to say yes, I was going to tell on you because you ain't got no business walking around at night. So I do, and I shouldn't, because I'm a woman.
Take note. Where's your husband at?
Oh, Yinka, where's your husband? That's another book. So our narrator, we begin our story one night in St. Petersburg, Russia. The night is perfect. It's one of those nice warm nights, perfect for walking. The weather is calm. It's welcoming. However, we are told that the starry sky is so beautiful, it's unlikely anyone below it is capricious or ill-tempered. It's not true. This is the dramatic nature of this entire story, by the way. It's almost, is it bathos? I don't know. So anyway, here we go.
Let's do it.
But it's almost, it almost takes you out of the story unless you go ahead and accept it. This is going to be dramatic. Sometimes a little, it's camp. It's camp.
Is it?
So most people have left town. They've left St. Petersburg. Maybe it was Leningrad. Maybe it was St. Petersburg. Probably
St. Petersburg.
For the summer season, save for the lonely people, the folks who had nowhere to go. And of the latter, we meet our narrator. He is lonely. He is so lonely, you guys. He takes routine walks and imagines he knows intimately the other lonely folks he passes regularly on the street. He's made friends of the houses. He thinks of them as sentient, friendly, waiting for him to pass as they each have a story to tell. But mostly, he thinks of his loneliness, and this fills him with shame. So this is the thing, right? Being lonely is real, and there's nothing comical about that. And sometimes being isolated and lonely leads to a self-absorbed nature that is still lonely, still valid in all its feelings, all the feelings it produces, but can be a little not based in reality. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get that. Because you're spending so much time with yourself, you start to,
Yeah. Now your life is theater and you are the main character in your lonely tale. So that's where our narrator is. But in the end, his night proved better than his day. I like that turn of phrase. He saw a woman leaning against a canal railing past her and noticed she was crying. Now, he has this yearning to approach her. Why is that, Alexis? Why does he want to approach this woman he's never met who's crying against a railing?
Oh, a good question. If I remember correctly, he was, because he was lonely and he didn't know the relationship with women and he wanted to check on her. I don't know. I don't remember.
Honestly, subjective. It wasn't explicitly said to us in the book, but he does have this complex where he wants to be chivalrous. Maybe he grew up, we can imagine, reading fairy tales. And so in order to pull himself out of this loneliness, he thinks he needs a big event. He needs to be someone's savior.
That's what isolation will do to you.
That's what isolation will do to you. And instead of White Nights, this book could have been called White Male Savior, because this is really his goal, to save someone, to be needed, but also to be admired and looked up to by a woman. Okay? So he sees a woman crying and his heart at once is drawn to her. He needs her to validate his masculinity. Not to be all woke, but that's the facts.
Yeah, well, I think he practically said that in the book. So
So argue with your mama. She suddenly crosses the road. Maybe she noticed him. She did. And she's like, ooh, this creep. And so she crosses the street. Ladies, we've been there. And a drunk man seems to be approaching her. Now, as you read this book, it's clear this drunk man might have been minding his business, but the narrator in his mind has imagined this man was ready to accost the woman. And see, this is his opportunity to be a white knight. K-N-I, however you spell knight, the other one. And suddenly, our narrator jumped in a single bound across the street. He said, here I come, lady. Knocks over the crippled drunk. He was probably on the cane. He said, get out of my way, old man. And I'll be like, oh. And he takes the woman's arm and she says, oh, okay. And he goes, in his mind, he thinks, oh, obtrusive gentleman, bless you. Thank you so much, drunk, for creating this opportunity. Whatever. So our narrator begins a conversation with the woman. They discuss his crippling shyness and unfamiliarity with women. This is what you were alluding to, Alexis. Right away, he's like, I shouldn't tell you. Oh, I want to tell you. Oh, I shouldn't tell you. But I feel you are someone with whom I can share everything. You are someone to whom I can speak. Honest, for real. For real. This is him in the book. And he's like,
That's
I
wild.
I am, how do you say, unfamiliar with women. I have never even really known a woman. I want so badly to know a woman. I am 26 years old and all day, all I do is dream of the day I'll finally meet a woman. He also lets us know he makes romances in his dreams and falls in love with these imaginary women. I was reminded of Will Smith, who in his book, Will, admitted to method acting, and in method acting, falling in love with co-stars. These are imaginary characters you have created in your mind. You haven't gotten to know these people. You're not falling in love with who they truly are. You are falling in love with this idea you mostly have created based on the little evidence you have of them and then the projections you fed into that evidence. So he imagines her again worthy of attention, not like a landlady. And I was like, hey, what? What's that even mean? He insists his impulse to approach her is a sign of his instant brotherly affection for her. Instantly, I saw you and felt as a brother would. Now, this is interesting because I have basically met people and instantly felt a familial affection for them. This happens. Or if someone is a certain age, as maybe a cousin or someone in your family, and you pass them on the street, you might feel a little something for this. If something were to happen to them in the moment, if they were accosted by a drunk man, you might rescue them because they remind you of someone that you know, but you don't know that person. Anyway. Right. They agree to meet the next night, but she lets him know she's not coming for him. She has to be there. So if you're here and I'm here, we'll be here together at the exact same spot tomorrow night.
She said, that's fine. You can come. You can come. In fact, I like it if you come, but I got to be here. So actually don't think nothing of it. Okay?
She makes him promise that he won't fall in love with her.
Also that.
Okay? You can't fall in love with me, all right? Both these
warnings
people.
Given.
And he says, I swear I will not. I know you as if we've been friends for 20 years. The thought struck me that I might confide in you, she says before departing. Part 2, the second night. He waits for 2 hours on the street, alone, at night. She finally comes. The second night, she says they must actually get to know each other. She was like, I was thinking about it, and me and you, we don't even really know each other.
No, you don't. At all.
No, we don't. My name, Меня зовут Nastenka. And he's like, oh, Nastenka. I love that. I love how stank is in your name. That's great. Oh, no offense to the Nastenkas. I actually love that name. Sorry, I'm saying a lot. They know nothing about each other, and that must change. So she asked him, why do you sit at home all day? Why do you sit at home dreaming all day? What is the reason for this? His response, do you remember a bit of it, Alexis? He says, I am a type.
Yeah, no, it was pretty long and drawn out. So,
so you ignored it. Listen, just the phrase, I am a type, signifies that there is something about you that has designation. I'm not explaining this, but it's very arrogant, even to say, I am a type.
Okay.
This is the type of person I am. And what is that type? Well, from this part of the conversation, we learn he is a dreamer confined to the corners of the world. That's how he sees himself. He recently received a visitor, a supposed friend, who quickly became embarrassed by the narrator's demeanor, ran away out of the house, chuckling like, all right then, grabbing their stuff. I cannot... Listen, this is not meant to be funny, but y'all, this man right away meets this woman and says, I am confined to the corners of the world. In fact, a supposed friend just came to visit me. And why? Why did this gentleman leave my house awkward, chuckling, running out as quickly as he could? Our narrator in his mind is like an abused kitten, forced to lick its own wounds out of the sight of others. He also believes himself to be like a tortoise, that animal that is both an animal and a lonely house. Yeah, I am not kidding. But her presence, Nastanki's presence, has given him a new view. Life was painful, dull, lacking imagination, but now since he met her, life has color. He also talks about his great imagination, and the worst thing it seems you can be in his mind is someone without imagination. So you know what? He is a type.
He is surrounded in his imagination because he's isolated himself.
Yeah, it's his closest companion.
Mm-hmm.
She, Stank, remarks how too splendidly, he explains his personality and situation. And I like this because it tells us that Dostoevsky kind of knows the narrator, and he's not beyond, he's aware of his character. So all this dramatic, off-putting theatricalness, it's on purpose. Okay. So Stank goes, listen, thank you for telling me about yourself, but you're too splendid in your words. He responds that if she speaks again, he won't tell her anything. She's like, okay, well, I promise I won't speak anymore. And so he continues. He has died and he has no idea how. I am dead. Everything I experience is just a dream. I now live with a woman who's like my maid. She has no imagination. Meeting Stank, he now has happiness. He can now be the main character of his own story, but this life is pitiful. Fortunately, he is superior to all desire. It is like she, the Stank, is the true version of the love he imagined. He and her were in love, he imagines, but she was married. He met her afterward, after that unhappy union, and they meet in a palazzo. Oh, yes, it must be a palazzo.
It's got a story.
And she runs into his arms. It is unclear if Nastanka knows our narrator is referring to her as he babbles on. But breaking his euphoria, his friend arrived with news. So now he's telling us about this gentleman that recently visited him. It was exciting news, but the friend left his home ashamed, awkward, and laughing with no humor. Hey, Team Literati, Kari here. Great news. Your favorite literary podcast has moved over to Patreon and membership is free. That's right, free 99. So in order to listen to this episode in full and others, visit patreon.com/LitSocietyPod and sign up for a free membership. We'll see you over there. There is silence. Then she asks him, have you lived that way all your life? If so, I may spend my entire life beside my grandmother. Now, any rational person would be like, what do you mean? What about your grandma? What are you saying? Instead of asking her follow-up questions, he dives deeper into his own story and his devotion to her. He don't know this lady, She's trying to tell him about herself, and all he can talk about is how devoted he is to her now. What? His life has been a crime and sin, he says. He has cursed himself with a loose grip on reality. Well, we agree there. She again mentions how her grandmother pins her to her side. Her grandmother wears a dress, takes Nastenka's garment, and pins them together so that Nastenka cannot literally leave her grandmother's side, never allowing them to separate. She then asks him for warm brotherly advice. This strokes his ego, and he says, yes, I can give you warm brotherly advice.
And he's so glad she asked. She's so glad. So glad.
And then finally she gets into her story, which is actually much more interesting. Go figure. Who is she, Alexis? Who is Nastenka?
Nastenka is an orphan child who is now being raised by her grandmother. She was orphaned. She was a mischievous child. So her grandmother was like, you're going to stay right next to me because I can't see, because her grandmother is blind. Mm-hmm. I can't see, so I'm going to keep you close. And so she's been close to her grandmother because she don't be acting right all the time.
Yeah. And so, she's 17 now, by the way. I think she's been with her grandmother for 2 years. I think her parents died when she was 15 years old.
Oh, okay.
And she used to joke around with friends. It seems very innocent, but it scared her grandmother because she's both older and can't see. Mm. Yeah. And so she just wants to make sure that no trouble befalls this girl, right? Mm-hmm. So she said, yeah, you have to be pinned to my side now, like literally. They own a small home, but rent out the upper story. One tenant they had was an old man. He was great because they never saw him coming and going. Well, turns out one day he died. A young man moved in, and grandmother was soon disturbed. She enjoyed the money that this tenant brought, but she asked Nastenka, is he pleasant looking? Nastenka doesn't want to lie to grandma. And so she says, I suppose. And grandma goes, oh, why does this granddaughter trouble me so, saying that strange men are good looking?
What a nuisance. What a nuisance. Oh, no. Life.
I wish it was like the old days. Grandma often misses the old days. She's like, make St. Petersburg great again. Now, she is lamenting the fact that her granddaughter considers this lodger pleasant looking. And Nastenka is like, but you asked me though. Mm-hmm. One day the lodger came into their floor with a question. So he came down to ask a question. Nastenka at once was so embarrassed to be pinned to her grandmother that she got up ready to run. But she hadn't unloosened the pin. And so he saw her like that, like pinned to her grandmother, and she just burst into tears out of shame. From then on, she quickly unpinned herself when she thought someone was coming, but no one ever came because they don't know nobody. He gave them books, and grandmother was sure they were scandalous stories about young girls running away with young men.
She said, did he put an extra letter in there or something?
Is there a love letter in there? Sometimes they hide it in the pages. Now, grandma telling it herself. Grandmother used to read scandalous stories all night long because she can describe them in detail. She's like, you'll never want to put them down, so you better not start reading them. And then she's like, sometimes they hide love letters in the bindings. Check the bindings. There are no love letters in there.
You're going to learn evil from that, so stop it.
Right. But these are wholesome books, and they fill her mind with thoughts of marrying a Chinese prince. Pushkin's one of the authors he gives her. Now, one day they pass each other, Nastenka and the tenant, on the stairs, right? Mm-hmm. And he goes, are you okay, girl? you really be pinning your grandma like that? And she's like, yes. And I love grandma, so I try not to disturb her or make her upset. And he's like, why don't you come to the theater with me? And she's like, oh, grandma would never allow that. And he goes, well, don't tell her. And she goes, I can't do that. I can't lie to grandma. Bye. She runs down. Good girl. Well, he comes down, pays a proper visit to grandmother, chats her ear up about the good old days, and then says, would you like to go to the theater with me? He then gives Nastenka a sly look, and grandma's like, oh, yes, young man. I love the theater. You know, I used to dance a little back in the day. Grandma's a lot.
She said, I used to play that role, that main character. That was me.
That main character. That was me, boo-boo.
That was me. I did that. I know that.
And Nastenka's like, oh, he must have asked me to test me. And so now we can all go to the theater together, me, him, and grandma, which is proper. And so they do. Every month, he comes down and asks them if they want to go to the theater, and they go. And it's just so lovely. Because she don't do nothing but sit next to her grandmother who like knits. Mm-hmm. So this is what she looks forward to most in life, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so she kind of waits for him to make a move, to say something, to show that he doesn't just have pity for her, but he's genuinely interested in her. Anyway, that never happens. He only asked them to go to the theater, and then the time arrives for him to move. It's time for him. He has other business in Moscow, and you know, he'll never see y'all again. Thank you. Bye, theater ladies. See y'all.
Bye.
She runs into his room with a to-go bag and cries on his bed.
Take me with you.
She don't even have to say that. She's just like, ah! And she is just bawling, right? And he goes, oh my goodness, listen, I'm broke. I can't marry nobody. I already know what you're thinking.
I like that about him. Okay.
Yeah, he honest.
I don't have money to give you what you need, so.
But look, you so devoted to me, I'll marry you. In fact, I don't want to marry nobody else right now in this moment today, but you. So I'll tell you what, let me go to Moscow. Let me handle some business. Let me make a name for myself. In a year, I will come back. And if your heart still feels as it does in this moment, I assure you, you are the only one who can make me happy. Marry me. Marry me if you still love me then.
He said a year or so. So give her a little more than a year.
She act like he said to the day, to this hour. In fact, let's not even talk to each other. Don't be writing me no letters. Don't DM me. We will just see how it goes. And then a year later, we'll meet back. Okay? And so she has been waiting by the canal for this man because she knows he's in St. Petersburg. It's a year later. And it's been 3 days since he's been in town. And guess what, Alexis?
He ain't said nothing to her.
He ain't reached out to her. He ain't DM'd her. He ain't tried to nothing. Okay.
Making no moves. Is this a breakup?
No. Oh no, because they were never together.
Okay, there you go.
They said, let's not talk. And then we meet back in a year, see if our feelings the same. That's what he said.
That's what he said.
Sound like he want to go see if it's more fish in the water, but if the water dry, if the fishing ain't good, I'll come back and get you, sea bass. So overwhelmed by it.
Dorada. It's very popular here.
Our narrator wants to seem chivalrous, right? And so he begs Nastenka, don't give up hope. He'll come. And I'm like, you stupid. But he can't help himself. He got a big mouth like me, and he like, listen, he loves you. I've met you. I've known you for 2 nights.
You're right.
So if you
love you
amazing,
like a brother.
Yeah, if I can love you like a brother, shit, he loves you like a husband. So he's like, listen, you gonna write a letter. This is what you're gonna say in it. Inside the letter, you're gonna be diplomatic yet clear and honest. Okay. And she goes, oh, thank you. In fact, I wrote such a letter. Here it is. I'm gonna hand it to you. Can you deliver it to him? And I'm like, who is playing this thinker? You know what you doing, girl. So she asked our narrator, please deliver this letter. It contains everything you just said I should write. And he agrees. Part 3, night 3. So they wait, hand in hand. She must know I'm in love with her, he thinks. The more she waits for this man, the more love she seems to show me. That's wonderful. He's very short-sighted. And then she responds as he's thinking this, I'm so happy you haven't fallen in love with me. When I'm married, we'll be like brother and sister forever. Now, she is trying to friend zone him hard.
It's big time. And I love that for her.
She's being clear. When I'm married
Very
to the man I
clear.
love,
Very
you and
clear.
me, we shall be brother and sister forever.
Forever.
Now I'm thinking,
Forever.
as the reader, did this narrator even drop off that letter? I wouldn't trust him to drop off the letter. She begins crying then. You've been so kind to me. Why isn't he you? He's not as good as you, although I love him more than you, she says. Although I barely know him, it seems you are sacrificing something for me. I am eternally grateful. I'm paraphrasing, but this part is a quote. If you ever fall in love with someone, God give you happiness with her. I won't wish anything for her, for she will be happy with you. I know I am a woman myself, so you must believe me when I tell you so. We shall always be together. This is the kindest friend zoning you can give someone, okay? Listen, when you marry someone, I won't wish anything for her because she will have met you. And so happiness is guaranteed to her. I don't want you, though. I'm
so
in love
clear.
with someone else.
It's so clear. It's so clear. It's clear.
He thinks to himself in this moment, if only you knew how lonely I am now. At the end of night 3, the man still has not come. Her beau, her want-to-be beau. Night 4, the man still ain't arrived. And now she's full of shame and regret. She's like, I've opened up my heart to him. I've told him how I felt. I wrote that letter that I can't take back. How cruel life is and how cruel love is. And then our narrator can continue no more. And this part I'm going to read directly from the book. He goes, look. Oh, wait, that's not in the book. Look. And then this is the quote. It's impossible, but I love you, Nastenka. There it is. Now everything is told. Now you will see whether you can go on talking to me as you did just now, whether you can listen to what I'm going to say to you. I cannot stay here any longer. You cannot see me again. I will tell you everything and go away. I only want to say that you would never have found out that I loved you. I should have kept my secret. I would have not worried you at such moment with my egoism. Oh, so you know you's a narcissist. You know it. That's scary.
Egoism.
Yeah. No. But I could not resist it now. You spoke of it yourself. It is your fault and not mine. You cannot drive me away from you. So he's like, he's a little scary. This nighttime, y'all, they on this canal bridge together alone. And he like, I love you. There's nothing I can do. It is your fault, not mine. I love thee.
Oh, politely turn around and go home.
No, girl, run. Nastenka, he continues, that you almost love me. Well, what next? Well, that's nearly all I wanted to tell you. All that is left to say is how it would be if you loved me, only that nothing more. Listen, my friend, for any way you are my friend. I am, of course, a poor, humble man of no great consequence, but that's not the point. This is a direct quote, y'all. But that's not the point. I don't seem to be able to say what I mean, Nastenka. I'm so confused. This is a quote, y'all. I'm so confused. Only I would love you. I would love you so that even if you still loved me, even if you went on loving the man, I don't know, you would never feel that my love was a burden to you. You would only feel every minute that at your side was beating a grateful, grateful heart, a warm heart ready for your sake. Oh, Nastenka, what have you done to me?
What have you done to me?
End quote. She responds. Here we go. I love him, but I shall get over it. I must get over it. I cannot fail to get over it. I'm getting over it. I feel that. Who knows? Perhaps it will end all today, for I hate him. She going through all the stages of grief right now in this moment. For he has been laughing at me while you have been weeping here with me. For you have not repulsed me as he has. For you love me while he has never loved me. For in fact, I love you myself. Yes, I love you. I love you as you love me. I've told you so before. You heard it yourself. I love you because you're better than he is, because you are nobler than he is, because he... And then she just stops. She like, I'm trying to convince myself I love this fool. And then he goes, what? And she goes, if you feel that your love is so great that it may at last drive from my heart my old feelings, if you will have pity on me, if you do not want to leave me alone to my fate without hope, without consolation, if you're ready to love me always as you do now, I swear to you that gratitude, that my love will be at last worthy of your love. Will you take my hand? Nastenka, he responds, crying breathlessly with sobs. Nastenka, Nastenka. So, summing that up, she's like, I love him, but he don't want me, and I don't really have a future, so I'll love you. And maybe one day the love that I have for you, which is for real, like a distant cousin, maybe one day it will be worthy of the love you have for me.
Maybe.
Okay? Who knows? But whatever we do, we got to do it right now, because I ain't getting no younger and grandma is standing on the doorsteps of death. So they begin planning a life. He will send for her tomorrow, her and her grandmother. They will marry. They will live with this maid he has that has no imagination. Nastenka says, I will learn how to do something and then I will give lessons. I said, oh, she's 17.
Is she 17?
Yes, he's
Yeah, don't
26.
forget.
She's 17. He's poor and she's pitiful, but it will be wonderful. We will go to the theater. Oh no, we shouldn't do that, she says. Oh, what am I saying? Oh, my heart is betraying me. Our narrator's like, oh, don't worry about it. This is great. This is the best day of my life. He looking up at the sky while Nastenka's looking down at the sidewalk. And then what happens, Alexis?
Her love enters just the scene. Her love enters the scene for real.
He might not come when you call, but he always on time. The man she wants walks up casually. Sound like he was just on his nightly walk. He like, oh, I love living in my mansion in St. Petersburg. Oh, Nastenka. Nastenka, girl, that's you. Listen. She releases our narrator's hand and rushes to the side of her love. The two of them leave our narrator alone.
Wait, no.
On the street.
The book, she goes to her man, loves him up, and then goes back to the narrator.
No, she don't.
And she goes back to the narrator, and then the two of them walk off into the night.
Dang. Oh, okay. I remember that. She's 17. And she know deep down in her heart, she got to get away from this crazy man who thinks of himself like as being a kitten and a tortoise. A tortoise. Anyway, he now thinks of his future. It's the next day. He is lonely. He is sad. He receives a letter from her and she's like, please forgive me. My heart was quickly turned over to the one to whom it has always belonged. We will be married in a week. Do not be sad. I wish, in fact, I have a bit of the letter because it is kind of, it's quotable. So quickly, part of the letter reads, forgive me, I beg you on my knees to forgive me. I deceived you and myself. It was a dream, a mirage. My heart aches for you today. Forgive me. Don't blame me, for I have not changed to you in the least. I told you that I would love you. I love you now. I more than love you. Oh my God, if only I could love you both at once. Oh, if only you were he. And this crushes the narrator's heart because he remembers her saying, if only he were you. So, in conclusion, may your sky be clear, our narrator thinks of Nastenka. May your sweet smile be bright and untroubled, and may you be blessed for that moment of blissful happiness which you gave to another lonely and grateful heart. My God, a whole moment of happiness. Is that too little for the whole of a man's life?
Mm-hmm.
Diane, want to take a break?
Yes.
And we're back. Alexis, what did you think of White Nights by Fyodor Dostoevsky?
I love this book. I laughed the whole way through. You may not think it was a comedy, but it indeed was. Oh, the good juiciness. The way she friend-zoned him early on with the I loved it.
I'm so happy you don't love me.
She said, don't fall in love with me. I got to come here tomorrow anyway because I got to be here, okay?
And I don't want drunk men on the street accosting me, so it's great to have you around, but please.
Absolutely. You
don't
got
love me.
Protection right here. He was like in the clouds with his talk, just nonsense. It's just like droning on. And she was like, You know what? You're a good friend. I like that. She friend-zoned him early and in the most polite way. And this book made me laugh. I'm sorry he was lonely. I'm sorry he was lonely. But this book made me laugh out loud many times. And I listened to it again. The reading that I got was a little dated, so it didn't sound the same as the words in the audio I listened to. But the audio that I listened to, the reader was so great. He put so much emotion into the words that I just couldn't help but laugh. I was like, is he serious? Is he serious about this emotion?
Melodramatic.
Yeah, it was just really great. So I like the book. I would definitely recommend it. And I'm just going to read how this is read in this. I have a PDF copy of it.
Mm-hmm.
And it said, my God, how she cried out, how she started, how she tore herself out of my arms and rushed to meet him. I stood and I looked at them, utterly crushed. But she had hardly given him her hand, had hardly flung herself into his arms when she turned to me again, was beside me again in a flash. And before I knew where I was, she threw both arms around my neck and gave me a warm, tender kiss. Then, without saying a word to me, she rushed back to him again, took his hand, and drew him after her. And then they vanished out of sight. That is it a love story?
Thank you so much for reading that because I don't remember that part, and that's beautifully written. Well, it's Dostoevsky.
It is so beautifully written. My goodness, it was beautifully written. I want to read more of his works because I love the way he writes. I can't wait to read the next book. I even like this much considered Crime and Punishment. Just as much.
Yeah, right when we read the love story of W.E.B. Du Bois, Crime and Punishment is next. Ooh,
That's
Lord.
what I said to myself. That's what I said. So yeah, I love the book. I enjoyed it. It made me laugh. I like it because she showed how to properly friend zone somebody. But then, she had that little, I think he tried to make her feel guilty to try to bring her in. And because she told him not to fall in love with her and leave her alone. They just friends. She said so many times they just friends. And it was great. How about you, Kari? What's your thoughts on this book?
I will say, I despise the Brontes because they lack self-awareness. Their characters lack self-awareness. Dear reader, I married him, dear reader. You know what? Save it. I don't care. You done called this man ugly. He borderline abusive and he hides an ex-wife in the attic. What are you doing? What I loved about this book is that, yes, it is over the top. The narrator is anyway, and the descriptions of himself, but it seems aware. It seems like it knows what it's doing. And so you can as the reader, I can relax and accept it for what it is and not be cynical about it. And the writing truly is beautiful. It is over the top. It's camp. And I love it so much. I love the houses talking to him in the beginning of the book. Like, hello there, lonely boy. They are painting me next week and I'm mad. For real, this is the beginning of the book.
Yeah,
I loved it.
Great. It's great.
Now, this idea that this is a love story about two people who felt something pure for each other, I love that idea, but I don't think that's what this is.
This is not a love story. She did not feel for him in any way, fashion, or form.
These people don't know each other. This book is about being deeply, incredibly, and incurably delulu. You meet people and you just imagine what they are. And then you just act as if they are who you imagined them to be. And don't let them tell you about themselves, because that'll ruin the imagination.
That's what he did.
Mm-hmm. In fact, don't you tell you about yourself. Because then you might not be who you imagine yourself to be. I love this. This is like a deeper level of, this is a study on delusion as it applies to romance.
And in this way, that is the delusion of The Great Gatsby.
Okay, fine. That is so true. Great job. I see it now. You're right.
That part.
And isn't that how we approach a lot of relationships?
Mm-hmm.
When you first meet someone, you don't know everything about them, and you fill in the gaps based on your life experience.
Yeah.
But that can go too far. This is about projecting your desires and insecurities into the persona of a stranger and then falling in love with that imaginary thing. It is dangerous. You will end up alone in a house with a woman who lacks imagination. The only person who truly loves anyone in this book is Grandma. So, do I like this book? No, I love it. Would I recommend it? Oh, yes. Absolutely. I can't wait to read it again.
Uh-huh.
This is a book you can just pick up, read a little bit of it because the writing is so beautiful. Put it down because you already know the story. It's a great book. Great short story. So yeah, loved it. 5 stars.
Good. Thank you, Kari, for providing this bit of entertainment for me. I tell you, I think I'm on my 3rd read now. Just because I like it so much. I just want to hear him plead with her again.
Yes.
And she's like, oh no, you're such a brother to me.
Yeah, I mean, it's between No Country for Old Men and this.
Mm-hmm.
I can't stop reading them. I can't stop.
Kari, what are we reading next week?
Oh, that's a good question. Here we go. I'm not cutting this out. Almost got it. We are reading Finlay Donovan is Killing It, a novel by L. Cosimano.
Thank you. And thank you for listening to Lit Society. We look forward to meeting up with you next week, Thursday. Lit Society is brought to you by me, Alexis Honoria, and Kari Herrera. Support the cause by leaving a 5-star review for our show on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and leave a comment on Apple about why you absolutely love us, because we love you too. And if you haven't made the move, come on, support us. Join us on Patreon for full episodes so we can continue to give you the content you enjoy. If you enjoyed what you just heard, tell a friend about Lit Society. Visit litsocietypod.com for show notes, this month's book list, and to sign up for our amazing email newsletter. And until next time, read something.